I think that I've made it no secret at this point that I love Finds of Frickbear's 3, and I need another excuse to talk about it. So why not talk about it and its two predecessors in Iceberg format? To quickly sum up what an Iceberg chart is, it's basically a giant chart with very common knowledge at the top and very, very obscure information on the bottom. And I wanted to make a Frickbear's centered one. So I put together an Iceberg chart, not only containing information from Frickbear's 3, but Frickbear's 1 and 2 as well. Without wasting any more time, let's dive into the icy cold waters of the Finds at Frickbear's Iceberg.
If I could just squeeze my big butt past here.
Scratch/Game Maker. Scratch and Game Maker are the two engines that Spooky Rick, the creator of Finds at Frickbear's, used across all three games, with Scratch 3.0 being used for Finds at Frickbear's 1 and 2, and Game Maker 2 being used for Finds at Frickbear's 3. Modding, Luigi, and Grite. One of the two things that Finds at Frickbear's 3 seem to have garnered the most amount of attention for is its modding scene, mostly seen on Game Banana, with people modding their own custom characters into the game as night guards. When Finds at Frickbear's 3 originally launched, it also came with a Luigi guard template where you just replace all the images of Luigi with your very own guard. With the release of the 1.1.0 update, a new template featuring a recolored Mike, being named Grike, was added, allowing you to customize more aspects of the game, such as your properties during the salvage sections and what the mask looks like. In the next major update for Frickbear's 3, it is also planned for you to be able to mod in custom animatronic skins, which is super exciting if you ask me. Frickbear's 3's multiple endings. The other thing that Frickbear's 3 seems to be known for is its multiple endings, being the slacker ending, the money ending, the good ending, the evil ending, and the ultimate ending. All of these endings have slightly different requirements, mostly tied to the salvage sections. I won't go into how to get all of the endings here since I plan on making an achievement guide after this video that goes into that, but just know that there are multiple endings in Frickbear's 3, with 4 out of the 5 endings having a unique Night 6 to finish things up. April Fool's Games. Before Finds at Frickbear's 2 and 3 came out, they both each received their own respective April Fool's games. Frickbear's 2's April Fool's game was this weird little RPG where you ran around beating up the scrap animatronics, being Molten Freddy, Scrap Baby, Lefty, and eventually Springtrap, while Psychic Friend Fredbear would constantly give you bear trivia. Like, this guy's bear knowledge is insane. Heck, the final boss against Springtrap isn't even a fight against him, it's basically just a giant quiz about bears. Meaning, yes, you have to pay attention to every single thing Psychic Friend Fredbear says to you before the Springtrap fight. Frickbear's 3's April Fool's game is a lot simpler, but at the same time a lot cooler. It is a 4-stage demo of a recode of one of Rick's older games, being Oroka Blast on Scratch, with the whole game being recoded in Game Maker. The only differences between this and the original Oroka Blast are that the main character is Purple Guy, all of the bosses are recolored to resemble FNAF characters, and when you beat the main 4 levels, you get Grun from the Return to Freddy's as a playable character and 4 extra way more difficult levels that are also a lot shorter. Frickbear's 3 Puppet animation. What I'm referring to is the way all of the characters are animated in Frickbear's 3. Let's take Withered Freddy for example. You know how he walks back and forth in the hallway in front of you in this game? Well, instead of being animated traditionally, where all of his body is a couple of frames, what instead is being done is every individual piece of Withered Freddy is its own sprite, that the code in the game then all puts together and animates him like you see in the game, which I think works very well for all of the actual animatronic characters in this game, as their movements are just way more robotic, which fits them because they're robots. Like, look at Mendo, he looks so freaking cool. I love how everything is animated in this game. Pause scumming, also known as pause buffering. It's basically the act of spamming the pause button to try to give yourself more time to deal with things on the screen without the threat of animatronics actually attacking you. This is mostly used during Fred Sweeper and hair pairs. Now, I've talked to a lot of people about pause scumming, and most people seem to not like it very much, calling it cheap and unimpressive. Me personally, I don't really mind people who pause scum. Since Rick put the pause button in the game, people should be able to use it. The one time I would say you would not really want to pause scum would be when you're doing a speed run. At that point, you're just wasting time for no reason. Frickbear's 3 Office TV. In the office of Frickbear's 3, to your right, there is this red TV. When you click on it, it actually turns on and shows a random GIF. There are a lot of possible GIFs that can pop up on this TV, and all of them are really, really funny. Though there are also some things on this TV that actually pertain to later entries, so I won't be talking about everything on here. Just note that a lot of them are a lot of inside jokes related to either the Frickbear's 3 dev team or the FNAF community in general. And with that, that is basically all of the surface level knowledge I have, so let's go down to Tier 2.
Weird to me that people will see a picture of a pretty woman and you want her to step on you.
Billy / scrapped guards in Frickbear's 3. Billy is the main protagonist of Finds of Frickbear's 1, with his main reason for working at Freddy Frickbear's Pizza being so he can afford a complete box set of Family Guy. He was also originally planned to be the protagonist of the third game as well, but due to the tonal shift that Frickbear's 3 had, he was scrapped. Other scrap guards include Mary Schmidt from Finds of Candies, who actually appears in Mike's ending photo in the Ultimate Ending, Strings from Pop Goes, Doug and Ness from the FNAF movie, and Jeff and Hudson from the Fazbear Fright stories. Also, weirdly enough, at one point, Vanny, Michael, and the boss were also considered to be playable guards. Though, much like everyone else I brought up in this section, they are all scrapped. Also, a thing to note about Hudson is that in the game, Hudson is excluded from the scrapped guards image, and I wish I had an answer for why he isn't there. Bear 5. Bear 5 is a widely known FNAF meme that snuck his way into Frickbear's 3. He appears sparsely throughout the game, only having 4 major appearances. Sometimes he shows up in the office when you put the camera down, only to disappear 1 frame later. He appears if you interact with this poster enough times in Fazbear's Fright. He appears on a poster during the credits. And finally, if you load in a mod character incorrectly, Bear 5 will replace them. Frickbear's 3 Forbidden Achievements. The Forbidden Achievements are a set of 5 secret achievements that don't appear on the achievement list and are not necessary for 100% in Frickbear's 3. The requirements for these achievements are as follows. 100% the game, beat every custom night challenge without power-ups, complete a lunatic run with the max amount of salvages possible with no upgrades, complete a lunatic run without dying, and beat 4720 mode. I would say more about these achievements, but that's a discussion for a different video. Night Guards represent the main 4 FNAF animatronics. With the exception of Golden Freddy, the main 4 Night Guards in this game represent the main 4 FNAF characters, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, with the correlations being Jeremy and Withered Bonnie, Vanessa and Toy Chica, Mike and Freddy, and Fritz and Foxy. Rodney takes $1 when salvaged. Rodney is one of the 6 backdoor characters that you need to purchase the upgrade backdoor trading in order to have a chance of seeing. Now, unlike every other character in this game, whereas if you salvage them, they give you money when you salvage them, Rodney will take exactly $1 away from you, with him being the only animatronic in the game to take money from you upon being salvaged. Too Much to Bear is the only original song in Frickbear's 3. In fact, scratch that. Too Much to Bear is the only original song in the entire series. Which on one hand, it would be cool if Frickbear's 3 specifically had its completely original OST or whatever. But at the same time, it does make Too Much to Bear stand out a lot more as a special, important moment in Frickbear's, and I guess I have to agree. SP characters. SP is a special difficulty that only certain animatronics actually get, with this difficulty actually slightly changing their mechanic. For example, Toy Freddy, you have to beat multiple high scores. Mal here, you can only look at the camera once the entire night. Shadow Freddy makes the office dark the entire night, etc, etc. This difficulty is really only used for special custom night challenges to make them more unique, which is commendable, but at the same time, there's not much to this difficulty outside of custom night challenges. Wario's relevance. Wario is pretty dang relevant to the Frickbear's games, having substantial roles in pretty much every game. He's the final boss of Finds of Frickbear's 1, he's the main character of Finds of Frickbear's 2, and totally not Wario stand-in, the boss is a major character in Frickbear's 3. That's not even mentioning the ultimate ending final boss's first half just being WarioWare. Original Frickbear's 3 character designs. Before we got all the designs we know currently in the game, Rick made a bunch of older designs that are way closer to the original FNAF designs. While I do like these designs, I don't think they have nearly as much charm as the actual final designs we see in game. Some of these designs are cool, like Lolbit and the Shadows, but even then, they kind of pale in comparison to what they look like in the final game. I will say that some of these designs are probably going to be the closest we have to actual Frickbear 3-ified characters, like the Jackos and Nightmare Mangle, but overall, I'm glad that we have the designs that we have in the final game. Scrapped Frickbear's 3 trailer variants. In the pre-release trailer for Frickbear's 3, at the end, there's a small little animated bit with Mike and Freddy talking about Mike being hired, in which he is. Now, originally, there were 2 other versions of this trailer that had Jeremy and Vanessa replace Mike. Sadly, due to time constraints, both of these versions were scrapped and only left as storyboards in the concept art area of the game. I should also probably state before we go to the next entry that a lot of the entries on this iceberg are from the concept art and character gallery sections, and that is simply just because that is where a lot of behind-the-scenes information about Frickbear's 3 is found. I won't be talking about everything from those 2 sections of the game, as I implore you to actually go there yourself and read them after this video, but I do want to cover the things that I found particularly interesting from there. Frickbear's 3 demo no screen filters. Now, back in my hot takes video, I said that it was a darn shame that these got removed from the game. And upon revisiting the demo for this video, a lot of these are hard to look at. I'd say the only one that I think should have returned is the flip note red, black, white, and gray one, as it would have been a nice little nod to Frickbear's 2. But at the same time, I understand why this was scrapped, given characters like Baby and Ballora with their mechanics having you look very closely at the cameras. FNAF Miss Charity Stream preview. As a part of 2025's FNAF Miss Charity Stream, Frickbear's got a little spotlight during the event that mostly showcased the custom night and the SP characters. William's favorite child. Okay, this one I find personally really funny. So in order to unlock the locked box in William's Woods containing Molten Freddy, you need to figure out a code. The only hint that William is willing to give you is the name of his favorite child. So you think it would be one of his actual biological children, right? No. He views Elizabeth and the crying child as brats, and judging by the concept art, he does not particularly like Michael either. So okay then, who is his favorite child? Well, obviously it's Spring Bonnie. You know, his favorite suit. He mentions this in the poster behind Nightmare Fredbear in the crying child's room, and sure enough, Spring Bonnie is indeed the code. This is also further proven in a scrap Talbot Files page that shows William hanging out with the Mimic and showing a picture of Spring Bonnie saying, "My handsome son." Not much else to say about this. I think this is just one of the better jokes in Frickbear's 3. Guard dialogue differences. So naturally, not every single guard has the exact same personality, and a lot of them respond differently to different situations in Frickbear's 3. For example, it seems like everyone else tends to go with Vanny's plan during the evil ending, whereas Vanessa, seemingly having a history with Vanny, is way more reluctant, and eventually that turns into being super willing to prove Vanny wrong. Which, I mean, she does, but like, she dies in the process of that as well. But I think my favorite examples of this are probably just how Fritz talks to any character in this game. I think Fritz is definitely one of the best written characters in the entire game due to his sheer off-the-wall insanity, with also a side of aware intelligence. Minigame origins. Every single minigame in Frickbear's 3 is based off of an existing minigame, or game in general. Some examples include BB's Air Adventure being Flappy Bird, Chomping with Chica being Egg Catcher from Kirby's Adventure, Pirate Plunder being a Game & Watch game, and Fred Sweeper and Golden Fred Sweeper, well, do I even need to say it? And so concludes the second tier of the iceberg. Well, there's really nowhere else to go but down, so let's just keep going with tier 3.
Now get out! You think I don't know where you are, my boy? You don't think I know? My cameras are always watching!
Original Frickbear's 3 roster. Originally, Frickbear's 3 had a very different selection of animatronics, leaning more towards Pizza Sim and Sister Locations cast rather than it being a sort of celebration of all of classic FNAF. All of the Trash Gang, Mediocre Melodies, and Rockstar animatronics were all planned for the game, as well as the fun times. Some other characters include the Shadows, Candy Cadet, and that jukebox thing from Pizza Sim. Heck, even the characters look way closer to how Frickbear's 2 is stylized rather than it going for its own thing. Rodney was never meant to be a FNAF OC. As mentioned in the developer notes for Rodney, Rick states that Rodney was made for a completely different project before he was added into Frickbear's 2. Now, I would end the entry there, but I actually have one more interesting fact to talk about. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, as I'm pretty sure Frickbear's 2's release date is lost to time, since I'm pretty sure what's on Rick's Scratch account right now is a re-upload of Frickbear's 2. But in a Roca Blast Scratch demo, in the 3rd level, Rodney is seen in the background, advertising his casino over a different casino. Which could mean that Roca Blast is actually the first time Rodney has been seen by the public, beating his Frickbear's 2 appearance. Hey, editing Nigel here. So I checked some dates and I found out that I was wrong. Frickbear's 2 was originally shared on March 17th, 2020, while Roca Blast's demo released on August 10th, 2021. So Frickbear's 2 is Rodney's debut. Chica Bib running gag. In the first 2 Frickbear's games, Chica's bib would frequently change to say different stuff. In Frickbear's 1, Chica's bib usually has the Lenny face on it. In Frickbear's 2, Chica's bib can also say uh-oh. And during Toy Chica's jump scare in Frickbear's 2, it has a giant F on it. This is also going to be the case in Frickbear's 3 as well, but due to the tonal shift, Toy Chica and Chica's bibs remain consistent. Nightmare Chica's bib, however, says die on it as a way to reference the gag in the first 2 games. Unused Spring Bonnie in the ultimate ending fight. Originally, Spring Bonnie would have been alongside Frickbear in the Frickbear boss fight, though the team had trouble figuring out what Spring Bonnie would actually do in this fight, update, and it just didn't seem worth it to give him a model when he already wasn't going to do nearly as much as Frickbear, so he was scrapped, and I'm guessing Frickbear just got whatever attack Spring Bonnie would have had. Mr. Hippo Death Coin immunity. If Mr. Hippo is in the office and you try to Death Coin him, he'll actually ignore it and restart the story he was talking about, making Mr. Hippo technically the only character that can be immune to the Death Coin. However, if Mr. Hippo is in the vents or the vent entries in your office, you can still Death Coin him and it will work just fine. Seeker of the Mimic is canon. Hey everybody, future editing Nigel here. So somehow, in a sheer act of big brain genius of mine, I somehow read the MCI as MCM. So for my sake, pretend I didn't say that. However, this point isn't completely wrong because it is worth noting that Rick has made Frickbear's 3 renders of some of the Secret of the Mimic characters, on top of hinting that some Secret of the Mimic characters are going to be in the next Frickbear's 3 update. Fan in the character gallery. After discovering every single character in the game that aren't Henry or William, you're given a special character gallery entry about the fan, which doubles as a reward for discovering every major character in the game, as well as doubling as a FNAF World reference. Frickbear's Extraction spin-off concept. In the concept art section of the extras menu are 2 images of a kind of Lethal Company repo-styled game, featuring some employees going to old Fazbear locations and taking stuff from them. I'm gonna guess this was never actually intended to be a full-on game and was more just a fun concept the team came up with, but it would be so cool if this was an actual thing, even if it is only just a 2D side-scroller. Clark Fixie and Fred Sweeper Frank. Clark Fixie and Fred Sweeper Frank are 2 characters that don't physically appear in Frickbear's, but appear a lot in the Salvage 1 memos. They also appear in that spin-off concept I talked about in the last entry, along with the dishwasher lady that William talks about in William's Woods, along with a character named Joe Guard, who I assume came after Billy in the thought process for this game's player character. Also, both of them seem to be friends with Vanabelle, as both of them appear in her ending photo in the ultimate ending. Building Viewer. In Frickbear's 3, if you 100% the game, you get another section on the extras menu called the Building Viewer, where you are then put into a 3D environment where you can look all around the map. This is a super cool bonus for people that actually took the time to 100% the whole game. And there's even some stuff hidden around this map that I want to talk about in later entries. But some things I will say now is that the office, when you put the cameras down, is not the same one as the one in the building viewer, as this window just doesn't exist. And you can see the outside of the building from the menu, as I'm guessing both environments are rendered at the same time. Frickbear's 3 is a soft remake of Frickbear's 2. When looking at how Frickbear's 3 and 2 are as games, you'll notice a lot of similarities between the two. Both of them have the same keybinds, you go to the same salvage locations in the same order. Both have a special final boss when you salvage all of the scrap animatronics, with the boss in Frickbear's 2 being a character named Phony Wario, who you can tell Salvage was slightly inspired by. I think the Frickbear's 2 concepts are really good overall, but the game is kind of primitive. Yeah, primitive. I'm going to use that word. Where Frickbear's 3 feels like a fully realized version of what Frickbear's 2 was trying to do. And with that, Tier 3 is done and dusted. So you know what that means. What's 3 plus 1? Yeah, let's go to that tier.
If it isn't that blasted hedgehog.
Collabs. Frickbear's 3 is collabed with a surprising amount of games, with 5 I can think of off the top of the dome. The first game I can think of is with Finds of Friedrichs, which began with Rick and the creator of Finds of Friedrichs, Ryan, doing an art trade with each other, where you get to see the Friedrichs characters in Rick's style and the Frickbear's characters in Ryan's style, which then led to an image of Freddy Frickbear and Friedrich shaking hands with each other. Now, when it comes to what's actually seen in both of these games, in Friedrichs, there's a poster that can sometimes change to the Frickbear's characters, and in Frickbear's, there's concept art of a bunch of FNAF boss fights playing poker with each other, with the bosses being Buddy from FNAF 1 Remake, Pal from Playtime with Percy, Golden Friedrich from Finds of Friedrichs, and Salvage from Frickbear's 3. The next game I'll bring up isn't really a game, but rather a mod for Minecraft, being FNAF Management Wanted, which will have an update sometime in the future featuring some Frickbear's characters. The next game I'm going to talk about is Stupid Horse Channel, which has Fritz, Billy, and Clark Fixie as betters planned for the game, along with a new character being named Dark Fixie. Another game that's not exactly a collab, but is frequently referenced a lot in Frickbear's is Gimiko, which is a sort of Binding of Isaac-like roguelike. In Frickbear's, Rodney has 2 voice lines that reference Gimiko. A lot of the devs that worked on Gimiko also work on Frickbear's 3, and you can spot Jeremy in Gimiko on a train. The final game that I can think of that Frickbear's 3 is collabed with is Too Many Nights, but in order to talk about that, I'll need to talk about Finds of Frickbear's 2 roguelike. Finds of Frickbear's 2 roguelike is a remix of the Finds of Frickbear's 2 Scratch project created by Deer. In this version of the game, the nights are way shorter, but every night you were forced to pick a new character from a randomly generated pool. Every once in a while, you're forced to pick a penalty that makes certain aspects of the game less forgiving, and sometimes you're also allowed to buy upgrades. If this sounds familiar to you, then that's because this is exactly the same gameplay loop as TMN, with Frickbear's 2 roguelike being treated as a sort of prototype for TMN. Rick actually did notice this and actually reached out to Deer about the remix. In fact, it's possible that this remix is actually inspiration for Frickbear's 3's upcoming Endless mode, which also plays out like TMN. Oh yeah, as for the TMN side of things, Rodney's gonna be in TMN. I should probably state that. Malhair name poll. Oh boy, this one's pretty funny. So when Malhair was revealed for Frickbear's 3, Rick would put up a poll asking what he should be named, Glitch Trap or Malhair, with 49% of people saying Glitch Trap and 48% of people saying Malhair. The following post had Rick basically say that the 49% that voted for Glitch Trap were wrong and that he was going with Malhair anyway. In the final game's dev notes for Malhair, Rick complains about how Glitch Trap is just not a good name. It doesn't make any sense for him. Scott doesn't like the name. He's a virus, not a glitch. And so Rick, by some extent, uses this game as propaganda to get people to call Glitch Trap Malhair. Not the first time he's jokingly used this game as propaganda, as he also uses this game as propaganda to get people to draw Withered Chica more. Scrapped Foxy running animation. Originally, when Foxy left Pirate's Cove, he would have had a running animation in the left hall camera, just like he does in FNAF 1. This was scrapped due to how little people would actually end up seeing it, which is completely understandable. Vanessa doesn't have a nose. On a really old Frickbear's 3 Game Jolt post, Rick talks about how the only reason that Vanessa still worked at Freddy's is because she couldn't smell any of the odors that plagued the place, with the simple explanation for that being that she just doesn't have a nose. So yes, audience that watches my channel, Vanessa is in fact a mouth breather. Funny jump scare screams. There's an option in the audio settings that allows you to adjust the jump scare screams, whether making them the normal ones, turning them off completely, or replacing them with a bunch of meme sound effects. This entry is only this far down because I still see people who are surprised that this is an actual option in the game. Multiple animatronic models. Have you ever wondered why Bonnie and Wither Bonnie can be in the same place at the same time, or why there's multiple puppets all over the place? Well, that's simply just because there are multiple versions of each animatronic running around. For example, the Circus Baby we see in Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rentals has blue eyes, with the Scrap Baby we see in Fazbear's Frights having green eyes, showing that she is indeed possessed by Elizabeth. Scrapped Music Man minigame. In the concept art section of the extras menu, a scrap minigame can be seen showing a sort of rhythm game starring Music Man. I'm gonna guess this was scrapped because it didn't fit with the theme of the rest of the minigames featuring on important major characters, like the main 6 we see in Night 1, Mangle, and Circus Baby. Shadow Bonnie is only said twice. According to Shadow Bonnie's extras menu, the only 2 times the words Shadow Bonnie are actually said in the game are in Shadow Bonnie's dev notes and in Balloon Boy's quiz in the FNAF 2 location. As everywhere else, he is referred to by his actual name, RWQ. I'm not saying the rest of this name. I'm not gonna pronounce all of this. Rick couldn't beat Frickbear's 3's Lunatic Mode himself. According to Fritz's dev notes, Rick reveals that yes, he could not beat Lunatic Mode himself and he had to get his testers to beat it for him. There's not much else to say about this one. I just thought this was kind of funny considering Lunatic is not really that hard based on who you pick. Original Frickbear's 3 Ultimate Ending. In the demo for Fonts of Frickbear's 3, if you get Springtrap and the mask before you leave the salvage location, you're greeted by this little girl at the end of night 2, who in the full game is revealed to be Susie. I'm guessing at the end of each night you would have originally seen a different member of the MCI, with night 5 ending with you seeing Cassidy, but who knows, as according to Rick, this is one of the most retooled parts of the entire game. Frickbear's 2 endings. The endings in Frickbear's 2 aren't like multiple endings with different finales like in this game, but rather just simple rank screens, which range from Wario being fired to him completely setting the place on fire. I'm guessing this rank is based on the animatronics you salvage, but I'm not entirely sure. Frickbear's 3 debug menu. When pressing CD F12, you are greeted with the debug menu, which I mostly see used for testing different cutscenes, as it's pretty convenient instead of playing through the entire point of the game to get to a certain part, just to see if your dialogue works or not when it comes to modding the game. Michael can't do the good ending himself. I want to use this entry to apologize for the ending of the Hot Takes video where I got a pretty crucial part of my point wrong. The co-writer for Frickbear's 3, Cactus Companion, reached out to me, explaining that the puppet does not like Michael and withholds the masks from him, which is the reason that you have to do everything for him. So yeah, my bad for getting that point wrong in my video. And with that, Layer 4 concludes. Only thing left to do, I guess, is to go further down.
I hear that you're playing Five Nights at Frickbear's 3.
Mod exclusive salvage dialogue. As of the time of recording this video, G-Zone, the voice actor for Salvage in Frickbear's 3, is currently doing voice line commissions for Frickbear's 3 mods, which basically entails Salvage actually acknowledging a mod character during his introduction during the evil ending Night 6. The voice lines cost $25 USD each, with $5 going to Rick. This also entails that these lines get actually added to the game, meaning that your mod actually gets acknowledged by the game. Some examples include Strong Bad, Goomba, Bowser, Sonic, among others. BB was originally a hint giver in Frickbear's 3. In Frickbear's 2, BB would sometimes be found around the salvage locations giving out hints on what you're supposed to do in order to get Phony Wario. Originally, he was going to have the same function in Frickbear's 3, but this was scrapped, with the only remnant of this being him asking you questions in order to get the key to parts and service in Salvage 2. Charlie was a last-minute inclusion. Charlie's inclusion in Frickbear's 3 was apparently a last-minute one, as she was added during the last month of development. There isn't really much else to say here, so I'll throw in a little bonus fact for you guys. Charlie is actually the one to write all of the extras menu descriptions for all of the other characters in the game, as she subtly reveals this in her extras menu entry. Scrapped RNG salvage locations. In the dev notes for the Endo Chasers, Rick brings up how originally, instead of the predetermined salvage locations we got in the final game, there would have been randomly generated mazes with animatronics spread around that you'd have to go salvage and then escape from the Endo Chasers at the end. This was scrapped and instead replaced with the Frickbear's 2 approach, with the Endo Chasers being the last remnant of this old idea. Extra red stars on the main menu. On the main menu, it's possible to have 2 bonus red stars on it. These are gotten from beating every single custom night challenge and overall 100%ing the game. These 2 red stars are also tied to unlocking Henry and Williams extras menu entries. The pizza that kills you and arcade machine references. I'm covering these both at the same time because both of them involve you being able to see them easily with the building viewer. First of all, the pizza that kills you is a special item on Freddy Frickbear's Pizza's little menu of sorts, while the arcade machine references refer to all of the arcade machines being references to old games Rick made. I already mentioned Aroka Blast earlier, but the other 2 are things I haven't talked about yet. The first one is John Fighters, which references a duology of fighting games that Rick put on his Scratch account. Well, the second one, Versus Tasty Moment, was so obscure I didn't even know this one at first. Turns out it's a reference to a random remix on Rick's Scratch account referencing another project named Tasty Moment, with Rick's version of the project being called Tasty Moment DX. Fredbear main menu variant. If you die to Fredbear during his boss fight, you're given the option to completely close out of the game. Upon doing this and reopening the game, the warning text at the beginning changes to a little message from Fredbear, and Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica are all replaced with Fredbear with the text Freddy Frickbear's Pizza saying Fredbear's Family Diner. This is a super cool Easter egg that most people don't really know about when playing the game, as why would you ever quit out of the game when doing the Psycho Foe Fredbear fight? Some Goober. Some Goober is a Game Jolt user that had been referenced twice by the Frickbear's 3 Game Jolt page, with the first one being Dreadbear addressing Sub Goober, thanking him for acknowledging his existence, with the second time being 4 months before the game was posted, was a video of Dreadbear singing Happy Birthday to some Goober. Backdoor in Frickbear's 3. In the files of Frickbear's 3, when looking at how the office is aligned, you'll notice that there's a door behind you that you'll never see in-game, with this being a reference to Frickbear's 1, as in that game you could look behind you to see a door where Foxy would reside. However, the backdoor in Frickbear's 3 was scrapped, I'm assuming because there was no good use for it. However, as we know from a teaser for the upcoming Frickbear's 3 update, the back door had been completely replaced with a second window and a second desk. Nightmare Fredbear and Frickbear's 3's demo files. Yeah, Nightmare Fredbear is actually in Frickbear's 3's demo, albeit not normally accessible, as he was one of the first characters to be worked on apparently, which makes sense, he is a pretty simple character coding wise. Lulzhack's Car Dream. Ever wondered why there were 2 images in concept art of Lulzhax getting hit by a car and BB mourning his death? Apparently one of the devs had a dream of Lulzhax getting hit by a car, with these 2 images just being a little homage to that, I guess. Felix 559 Death Strategy. So when buying the Felix's Loan upgrade, obviously you can't go below 0 tokens by the end of the night, otherwise you get jump scared at 6 AM, right? Well, what if you died at 5:59, like by Mangle or the Puppet, for example? Since jump scares can't stack, Puppet or Mangle, for example's jump scare would take priority over Felix's. And since you'd be jump scared at 5:59, the clock would tick over to 6 AM and you would win. By this logic, if pulled off correctly, you could have unlimited money in theory, though this does require some effort to pull off. Well, here we are. Only 2 tiers left on the iceberg. There ain't no time with the present, so let's get into it. Hey, so like, I ran out of ideas for bits for my iceberg video. Can you like help me with it? It's about Frickbears.
No.
Okay. Unused icons. In the files of the full version of Find Some Frickbears 3, there are 4 weird icons that you would maybe see in Mendo's shop. Honestly, I'm not really sure what the purpose of these icons are. One of them is, interestingly enough, Security Puppet, who is never seen in the full game, with the other 3 being Balloon Boy's skull, Bonbon, and icons that kind of look like the Cam Radar icon. Also, on the topic of icons, there are 4 achievement icons that are never seen in the final game. They're all bronze and don't seem to be tied to any scrapped achievements or anything, so who knows what these were going to be used for. Alternate Michael phone call. Now, before you complete the ultimate ending, you're not allowed to take the masks and the scrap animatronics at the same time, as the puppet won't let you. However, after completing the ultimate ending, you are able to do so, meaning you're able to do Michael and Vanny's paths at the same time. If you do this without buying the Talbot files at the end, you'll have to pick between one of the 2. If you pick Vanny's path, Michael's dialogue at the beginning of the salvage fight is actually different.
Hell, I told you this would happen, and you didn't listen, did you? Well, I suppose there's no going back now, so the best you can do is listen to me.
Frickbears 1 newspapers. When beating the custom night challenges in Frickbears 1, you're given one of several newspapers that usually detail something about Billy. The only reason this is near the bottom of the iceberg is because I highly doubt anyone actually went out of their way to beat the custom night challenges in Frickbears 1, so I thought I'd give them a spot here. Okay, strap in, because these next couple ones are going to be technical Frickbears knowledge. Lefty movement probabilities. A Discord user by the name of Scal made an image showing all the possible movements that Lefty could make in the vents. Notice how Lefty can get stuck on the far left or right middle, or the bottom left and right. This is key for dealing with Lefty incredibly easily without the death coin. Now, I will say that cheesing Lefty is pretty common knowledge, and the only reason this is this far down is just because the exact probabilities are probably not known by most people, so I thought I'd show them here. Funtime Freddy voice lines predict his attack. I found this out from a user in Frickcord being named Nova's Lightning, who ran some tests to determine which Funtime Freddy voice lines mean he's going to attack at the door he's at, or attack from the opposite door, ending up with these results right here. So for example,
Let's give the birthday boy a big hug.
meaning that he won't try to fake you out and will attack on the side that he's actually on. Lulz hacks tack. Hey, you want an easy way to get every single character in this game, and all you need to do is exactly 1 run of Jeremy and then a whole bunch of custom night? It's simple. Select Jeremy, do the money ending, get Lulz hacks, beat the run. Then when you're done with that, go to custom night, set the night length to 1, turn everybody on at least 1 difficulty, and Lulz hacks will only spawn in characters you don't have, including the backdoor ones, with this to my knowledge being the most efficient way of getting every single character in the entire game. Plush Trap can't spawn on the left when Twisted Wolf is in the office. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Plush Trap can't spawn on the left when Twisted Wolf is in the office, obviously. I think this is done because Twisted Wolf's paw covers up where Plush Trap would be, making it unfair. There's a lot of examples like this where animatronics account for other animatronics, like Mr. Hippo accounting for Toy Chica's Cupcake, Dreadbear accounting for Nightmarian, etc., etc. This is just the most obscure example of that. Fredbear and Paul in Afton Blast. One thing I forgot to bring up during the April Fool's entry is that if you 100% Afton Blast, you actually get it jump scared by this image of Fredbear, which is crazy to think that he was planned for this long. Though I'm pretty sure a majority of people know that. Why is this entry near the bottom of the iceberg? Well, that's because I also wanted to pair it with a bonus entry, so consider this a 2-in-1. In the files of level 2 of Afton Blast, if you look in the top left, you can see pixel art of Paul from Anton Ball Deluxe. I guess it's fitting that Frickbears 3 references Anton Blast so much, considering Rick literally shows up in Anton Blast, as the cat from Aroka Blast shows up as a contributor character. Nightmare Fredbear's salvage dialogue might reference Papa Fredbear. Papa Fredbear is a secret character found in Frickbears 2. All he does is just complain about how this place sucks and how it used to be way better in the olden days. Now, if this sounds even remotely familiar to Frickbears fans, when salvaging Nightmare Fredbear, he almost talks like he's like Freddy's great-grandfather, since he calls Freddy his grandson and calling him a disgrace to the Fazbear name. Though, to be fair, this could be nothing more than a cheeky little reference to Papa Fredbear, since he's referenced nowhere in Frickbears 3. Okay, the final 3 entries on the iceberg aren't really informational per se, but rather speculating on stuff that I saw in Frickbears 3. Did FNAF 3 happen in Frickbears 3's timeline? Now, I personally don't think it did, and I have two big reasons as to why. First of all, Springtrap is in the FNAF 1 location, which is where he got spring-locked originally. And two, Fazbear's Fright is still standing. This might seem pretty obvious to most people, but to me it just kind of reaffirms the fact that this game, if it was canon to the actual FNAF games, would kind of be the stand-in for both FNAF 3 and Pizza Sim, which I think is pretty cool, and I don't see many people actually think about that. Who is the real puppet? We know about 3 puppets. We know about the one in Freddy Frickbears, we know about Lefty, and we know about the marionette that keeps all the masks safe. Now, I imagine you'd come to realize, wait a minute, only one of these puppets is possessed, right? But the thing is, which one is it? All 3 of these puppets seem to act possessed in one way or another. For the Frickbear's puppet, at the end of the ultimate route, Charlie actually tells you how many times you did die to the puppet. We obviously know the salvage location puppet is possessed, considering Michael can't just swipe the masks from it. And then as for Lefty, we know there is a puppet inside of Lefty, who again, talks like they are possessed. So out of all 3 of these puppets, who do I think is the real puppet? The Charlie Emily puppet? Well, I personally believe it's the Frickbear's puppet, as when Charlie does take off the mask, it is implied to be the Frickbear's puppet's mask. But then, what about the other 2? Are they just not possessed? Are they possessed? What's going on with them? To answer that question, I'd like to propose a connected puppet theory. Since all of them kind of talk the same and seem to have the same goals and, well, fate, I personally believe that Charlie possesses all 3 of them at different times, but I could obviously be wrong, and this is clearly a stretch. But I digress. And here we are, the final entry on the iceberg, the significance of 47. Well, there's 47 animatronics. There's 47 achievements. Now, I feel like there has to be something more significant about this number. Like, this has got to be some kind of 99 in Baldi's Basic situation, right? Like, surely there's some significance to this, I swear, right? Like, I looked it up and there wasn't really anything there. I don't know, maybe I'm overreacting about this. I just feel like there's gotta be something a little more to it. I don't know. It's just a really odd recurring motif in this game, and I feel like I had to address it somewhere. So I guess this is just the final entry, I guess. And that, everybody, was the Finds of Frickbear's Iceberg Explained. Before I go, I do want to state that my next video is definitely planned to be the Frickbear's 3 achievement guide, so stay tuned for that. And I do want to give you guys a definitive thank you for how well the hot take video did. I still don't know how to completely respond to the fact a video of mine got over 5k views, hell, over 20k views. That's just crazy to me, you know? But I won't waste any more of your time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care, y'all.